The atmosphere was tense and everyone watching were filled with excitement. They all knew that it was impossible to do anything on the first tower without being banned, even the princes dared not cause problems, so they were absolutely safe in this lobby. This kind of good show is not seen often, so this time's meal was definitely worth it. To each other, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was very cold. Without the layer of identity, Nangong Shoujie was nothing but trash. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he would not hesitate to return the attack. Nangong Shoujie was furious, but as long as they were sitting within the first tower he was completely helpless. Noticing the helplessness of Nangong Shoujie and Nangong Yujin, Bailey Hongzhuang was also puzzled. Even the two princes dared not break the rules of the first tower. It seemed that the first tower's background was rather amazing. However, under the tense atmosphere a voice suddenly caught the attention of everyone. The sound of a baby crying sounded together with a black-robed man who came over, carrying a child. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes lit up in happiness. "Wifey, why haven't you come back yet? You need to take care of your child and your husband." Xia Jiqing and the others were instantly stunned. Who was this guy? They had never seen him before. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned after seeing the black-robed figure. What kind of ghost was he? How could Imo Yinjue appear here? The most important thing was that Imo Yinjue was actually cooperating with her. Although she had not had much contact with Imo Yinjue, she knew that he was not a person who'd help others. But now he was helping her with her problems. Awesome, this is great. Little Black shook his head as it said. This Imo Yinjue was absolutely perfect, only God knows where he managed to get a kid from. Master, this person is really difficult to see through. Little White was speechless. The situation is already a mess, but Imo Yinjue dared to enter and mess the situation up once more. The courage he had was not small. Dong Fengyu and the others looked at each other. They did not know where this black-robed man came from. They didn't know any people within this country. The other people within the restaurant were also stunned. Their eyes widened in incredulity. They had previously suspected that the words Bailey Hongzhuang had said were false. They did not expect that reality proved them wrong. In this case, Nangong Shoujie wanted to take away a child's mother. This was simply too much for everyone. However, the most horrified people present was the waiter and the manager. Since when had their boss gotten a child? They clearly had never heard about this. After Nangong Shoujie and Nangong Yujin saw Imo Yinjue, their expressions also changed slightly. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was Imo Yinjue's woman. This situation was getting bad. Imo Gongzi, Nangong Shoujie's face had a smile on his face and a faint gleam in his eyes. Bailey girl is your wife? Imo Yinjue smiled and nodded. Looking at this situation, it seems that there is some sort of conflict between the two princes and my lady. My lady has always had a child's temper. I hope the two princes will be able to let go of the matter. When the voice fell, Imo Yinjue directly handed the child in his hands to Bailey Hongzhuang, making it look so familiar for all who watched. Chapter 686, Imo Yinjue is helping them out of trouble. In addition to Bewitching, when did Bailey Hongzhuang find another husband? Xia Jiqing's heart was filled with questions. This wasn't right. She had never even heard of the existence of this young master. When he listened to Imo Yinjue's affirmative answer, Nangong Shoujie's face was ugly to behold. It was no wonder that Bailey Hongzhuang was so arrogant before. She was holding the thigh of Imo Yinjue. Nangong Shoujie and Nangong Yujin looked at one another. It seemed that they couldn't get what they wanted today. Imo Yinjue was a special existence in their eyes, just as the first tower was a special existence within the imperial capital. Originally they thought that Imo Yinjue was just an ordinary businessman. When they wanted to bring the chef from the first tower into the palace to cook in their kitchens, the chef refused and they wanted to kill the chef. They would never have thought that their father would save the chef, and reprimanded them, saying that no matter what, it was best to not provoke Imo Yinjue. At the beginning it was obvious that the emperor felt that Imo Yinjue's identity was a taboo and they felt shocked. Their father was so strong, the other party was just a restaurant owner, but even their father feared him, showing that he was not a simple character. Neither Nangong Xiujie nor Nangong Yujin were stupid people. Since then they had been very polite towards Mo Yinjue and never gotten into any contradictions with him. Since it is Mrs. Mo, naturally we will not mind it, Nangong Xiujie slowly said. Watching how the change in the attitude of Nangong Xiujie happened so fast, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others showed confusion. This change was simply too fast. What is the identity of this Mo Gongzi? These two princes are so scared of him. The eyes of Dongfang Yu blinked with uneasiness. They wouldn't have gone from the ashes and into the fire, would they? After all, this Mo Gongzi would not help her for no reason. Gong Shaoqing had a heavy expression on his face. When he faced the two princes he still didn't worry so much, but the sudden appearance of Mo Yinjue was too hard to understand. I don't know, let us wait and see. I accidentally broke a table, let the waiter put it on my tab, Nangong Xiujie said. Yujin and myself have some things we need to do, so we must take our leave. The table wasn't stable enough, the second prince just helped me find a faulty table. How could I ask the second prince to pay for it? Mo Yinjue's lips were raised in a slight smile, but there was no chance in the emotions deep within his eyes. Well then, we will meet the next time the two princes come to the first tower. I hope that you will come often. Seeing that Mo Yinjue gave them a chance to step back, their expressions also softened. That's good, thank you Mo Gongzi. As the voice fell, Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were no longer willing to stay at the first tower for even a minute. Today they had really lost face. After leaving through the entrance of the first tower, Nangong Yujin's face was gloomy. I did not expect such a thing to happen. At this moment the feelings in his heart could only be described as extremely regrettable. Originally he thought that today's harvest would be good, they never thought that it would not be a blessing but a loss of face. Nangong Xiujie's face was even uglier. Yujin, do you think that Bailey Hongzhuang is really Mo Yinjue's wife? I don't know, Nangong Yujin shook his head. If not, why would he help her? I don't know, Nangong Xiujie was also puzzled. He was quite certain that this was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared in the imperial capital. If this was the case, then Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yinjue should not know each other, and if they did not know one another it'd be impossible for Mo Yinjue to help her. He often came to the first tower, and although Mo Yinjue came and went like a ghost, he had still seen him several times. According to his understanding, Mo Yinjue had never been the kind of person who liked to help others. On the contrary, Mo Yinjue absolutely hated trouble. Was it really like this? Was Bailey Hongzhuang truly the wife of Mo Yinjue? It seems to be the only explanation. They also seemed very matching. After Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin left, the waiter also walked to the side of Mo Yinjue. Boss! You, Mo Yinjue lifted his right hand and stopped the waiter's words. Come here and clean up. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang returned the child to Mo Yinjue. Is this your child? Mo Yinjue shook his head. I don't even have a lady, how can I have a child? I just heard your conversation and borrowed the child from someone else. When the voice of Mo Yinjue fell, Xia Jiqing and the others felt relieved. It seemed that the situation was not as bad as they thought. This Mo Yinjue was just trying to help out. Hongzhuang, do you know this Mo Gongzi? Xia Jiqing could not help but ask. Looking at the way the two were talking together, it was clearly not the first time they met. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head as she smiled. Yes, let me introduce you all. This is Mo Yinjue, I met him a few times, he is my friend. If she had been unsure last time when they met in Longguang town, now she could definitely be certain that Mo Yinjue was her good friend. After all, she was not an ungrateful person and Mo Yinjue had helped her again today. It was clear that they were friends by now. Looking back at Mo Yinjue, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to introduce, these are my classmates from the Kanglin College. Mo Yinjue nodded slightly to everyone, it is a pleasure to meet you. Gong Shaoqing and the others also nodded in greeting. Their impression of Mo Yinjue was quite good, at least he had helped them solve a big issue just now. Thank you for just before, Bailey Hongzhuang said, as her eyes were filled with sincere gratitude. Mo Yinjue just shook his hand and said, I couldn't just watch, I hope you didn't mind. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, I understand, you were just cooperating with me. When they heard Mo Yinjue say this, they had an even more favorable impression of him. It seems that this Mo Yinjue was truly a gentleman. Mo Gongzi, are you the boss of the first tower? Xia Jiqing could not forget how the waiter had referred to him as boss, and she looked at Mo Yinjue. In her eyes, the first tower was a very famous place. Yes, I am a businessman, he said, and he could not help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was also finding it a bit comical. Although Mo Yinjue had said he was a businessman before, she had not felt he looked like one. She did not expect him to run such an ordinary business as a restaurant. This was out of her expectations. Mo Gongzi is a wonderful person who is very eloquent. The first tower is completely different from any other restaurant. Mo Gongzi is truly a dragon amongst men. Cui Haoyan praised. Chapter 688, Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Cui Gongzi also has a good reputation. In the future you should come to the first tower often so we can all gather together, I'll naturally treat you all. Moyan answered in a calm manner. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit of doubt. She could not help but feel that the Mo Yinjue she saw today was a bit different from the one she had met at the Luoyun Mountains. At that time Mo Yinjue had this gloomy aura around him, but now it was obviously much lighter. The only thing which had not changed was the pair of black eyes that was showing a dense darkness. After a bit of conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up and left. They had been out for long enough. The two mentors and the vice president were likely to have already finished discussing the situation and might even have returned. Mo Yinjue did not say much, he just sent them out the entrance to the first tower. Hongzhuang, I did not expect that you knew people in the Qing dynasty. Xia Jiqing's eyes sparkled with excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too powerful, and even they, as her friends, did not know too much about her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, I have only met him twice. That he helped me today was also out of my expectations. Although Dongfang Yu and the others did not speak, they were also filled with admiration. Since they had gotten to know Bailey Hongzhuang, she had truly stunned them time and time again, but now they were used to it. I did not expect that Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujun turned out to be that kind of people. Although they did not do anything to us because of Mo Yinjue today, I believe they will do their best to cause problems when we enter the tournament. Zhang Yunfeng frowned. According to her judgment, Nangong Xiujie and Nanong Yujin were both people that would cause problems. She was afraid that there would be a lot of troubles in the future. Xia Jiqing put her hand on Zhang Yunfeng's shoulder, her face filled with a smile. Yunfeng, why do you worry so much? Even if we had not insulted them today, we were still destined to be enemies at the tournament. Thank you, Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but laugh. That is also true, but we still have to be careful. The others nodded their heads. This college tournament was truly a feast of hongmen. I don't know how ugly Nangong Xiujie's expression will be when he realizes that we are students of the Kanglin College, Xia Jiqing said with a smile. I am sure it will be very exciting. Hongzhuang, when Nangong Xiujie finds out that you aren't Mo Yinjue's wife, will he blame Mo Yinjue? Cui Haoyan showed a hint of worry. Mo Yinjue had acted to save them, so naturally he was their friend now. They could leave the Qing dynasty after the tournament, but the restaurant of Mo Yinjue couldn't. If this would cause problems for Mo Yinjue, they would feel uncomfortable and guilty. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed strangely. It shouldn't be a problem. Since Mo Yinjue could make the two princes this afraid, then he must have some backing. She was certain that Mo Yinjue was not a simple character and that his backing was rather outstanding. Otherwise it was impossible to cause even the emperor to be afraid. Since Mo Yinjue had helped them, he had to be certain that nothing would happen to him. After the return of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it did not take long before Lu Huayan returned with Huan Chuyu. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Huan Chuyu slowly said, "You did a good thing today. Kanglin College is not to be humiliated like this. This matter was wrong by Lingyin College. Even though he was usually a very kind person, at this moment, his face was showing traces of anger. The method that the Lingyin College used was simply over the top. Xia Jiqing and the others were also relieved. Since even the vice principal agreed with their actions, they did not have to worry about anything. We will stay in this inn and see how Lingyin College intends to resolve this matter. Since they invited us to come, naturally it is their responsibility. The expression of Huan Chuyu revealed a trace of pride. Although the Lingyin College was strong, the Kanglan College students and mentors were not soft persimmons either. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the room. They had full faith in the vice principal's ability to handle this matter. He was not only the vice principal at the Kanglan College, he was also a four-tier alchemist. This is an identity which was enough to attract the respect of others. At the same time, inside the Lingyin College, things were starting to change. Huan Yulong's face was very ugly. He originally wanted to embarrass Kanglan College, but he did not want to be the one who was embarrassed. The vice president of Lingyin College, Lin Ninghao, also had an ugly expression on his face. This time you have gone too far. It is fine to go a little overboard, but the Kanglan College is not a vegetarian. They will not let you stomp all over them. It is clear that the team from Kanglan College has already made up their mind. Unless they come and personally invite them, then they would not return. Their college tournament was prepared especially for the Kanglan College. If they don't participate, then that will be equivalent to wasting all their hard work. The most important thing is that now Kanglan College was in charge. If the team did not participate, then Lingyin College would get a reputation of being incompetent. Huan Yulong's eyes were also serious. Obviously this time he had gone too far, and he was not sure how to solve it. Vice President, this was indeed too much, but I don't know what to do now. Huan Yulong looked at Lin Ninghao with a hopeful gleam in his eyes, hoping that he could save him and ensure that he did not lose his position in the college. You were too reckless. It is impossible to not be punished. As for how to solve this problem, I will discuss it with the principal. Lin Ninghao said faintly. With Lin Ninghao's voice falling, Huan Yulong's heart sank. He understood that Lin Ninghao was telling the truth, and he was the one who had brought this problem onto himself. But why didn't he consider the reaction of the Kanglan College? The more he thought about their decisive attitude, the more he hated them. When the college tournament began, he would never let them off easily. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang got up early. They had heard about the Wubao Pavilion in the Qing dynasty. It was a place with treasures that all cultivators needed. Last night they had planned to go to Wubao Pavilion to look around, but the appearance of Nangong Shojia had made them lose too much time and they had to cancel. When Bailey Hongzhuang exited the room, she saw that Xia Jiqing and the others were already waiting for her outside. Currently they all thought that living in the inn was much better than living in the Lingyin College. With the attitude Lingyin College had towards them, it was clearly a matter of not being able to live well. Now that they lived outside, they were all very happy. There was no problem with coming and going as they pleased. Hongzhuang, you are finally up. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy smile as she quickly walked next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. She could see that Xia Jiqing's mood was not affected by the college tournament, that she saw their trip to the Qing dynasty as an outing, and she could not help but smile. She had to admit that Xia Jiqing's mentality was really good. Ordinary things could not affect her mood at all. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but also Zhang Yunfeng and the others felt that Xia Jiqing was a hyper person, which made them all feel much better. Since everyone has arrived, let's go, Dong Fengyu said as he looked at all of them. Wubao Pavilion was very famous in the Qing dynasty's imperial city. Just asking around, everyone knew the location of the pavilion. When they arrived in front of the Wubao Pavilion, their eyes could not help but widen slightly as they looked at the purple-black building. The building was delicate and it was obvious that the architects had spent a lot of time thinking about the construction of this building. A strong sense of power came from the building, making everyone feel a sense of respect from just looking at it. Wubao Pavilion was split into 3 layers. The first layer had medication and herbs needed by the different cultivators. The second layer had weapons needed by cultivators and the third, and final, layer had inscriptions. Not even mentioning the first and second layers, the third layer alone was enough to consolidate the status of Wubao Pavilion. Inscriptions had always been rare, and many practitioners had no way of getting in touch with such inscriptions. However, there were inscriptions in the Wubao Pavilion. How could cultivators not revere this place? They slowly walked into the Wubao Pavilion. As soon as they entered, they could see that the business was good. There were a lot of practitioners inside buying the medicines and herbs they needed. Medicines and herbs were easy to consume, and after they had been consumed they would be gone. As such, the cultivators had a great demand for them. The layout of this Wubao Pavilion was very different from other shops, and it was giving a sense of comfort when one was inside. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a fascinating gleam of praise. Wubao Pavilion was truly a famous place within the imperial capital, and the things they had here were also eye-opening. The medicines and herbs in this Wubao Pavilion are so many, and many of the things that are hard to find and exceedingly rare can be found here. It was hard for Xia Jiqing to hide her excitement. The prices were naturally very high, but it was often so that, even if you had the money, you couldn't buy them. The amount of items in the Wubao Pavilion was without a doubt the most she had ever seen. It was clear why they were doing so well. Bai Junyu's face lit up with a smile that radiated like sunshine. This Qing dynasty is a big country. The number of alchemists is much higher than in smaller countries, naturally it can't be compared. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. This was also the power of a big country. It was very rich, it was truly an eye-opener. If you need anything, then go buy it, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. The market price in Wubao Pavilion was quite fair, and one would not suffer a loss from buying their items here. For some time, everyone's eyes were on the counter, picking the medicinal herbs and pills they needed. Before coming to the Qing dynasty, they had prepared a lot of money, so if they saw something they needed, they would be able to purchase it. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the things that were for sale, but she had no intention of buying anything. She was an alchemist herself after all. However, just as Xia Jiqing and the others were buying things, a familiar and provocative voice rang out from behind them. Hey, see who is here. It turned out to be the ones who can't even prove their own identity. Lu Jingqi's eyes were smug and filled with sarcasm. Yesterday, because of the mentors, she did not have the opportunity to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Today they wanted to see the famous Wubao Pavilion. They had never expected they would run into them here. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people slowly turned around. After seeing the group of cultivators from Beihai College, their faces changed slightly. I forgot to look at the calendar before going out today. When going out I actually encountered something so unsavory, it really made my mood bad. Xia Jiqing did not hesitate to fight back. She was not going to eat a loss. Xia Jiqing, you are really poisonous. Lu Jingqi was gloomy, but after a bit she recovered. It's better than some people who were blocked in front of the door and can't enter. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Li Jingqi an indifferent glance and tuned to Xia Jiqing. Why do you care about what mad dogs are saying? They like to bark, but do you have to accompany them? She is really annoyed with this group. No matter where they go, they appear. They were like a group of annoying flies. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing could not help but raise her thumb. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too poisonous when she spoke. You are right, let them bark, why bother with them? Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded before she began continuing to choose which items to buy. Lu Jingqi and the others' faces turned immensely ugly at that moment. This Bailey Hongzhuang was so good at trash talking. They had tried to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now the words of Bailey Hongzhuang had made them fall into such an embarrassing situation. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can't be too much. Lu Jinglin could not help but say out loud. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mockingly. Lu girl, what you said was really interesting. From the beginning to the end, you were looking for trouble. Now you are saying that I am too much. I think your logic is really quite something. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Jingqi coldly and then she said, if you want to continue then let's just fight it out. If you do not wish to fight then obediently shut your mouth. Don't continue to provoke us if you are cowards. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were very strong. This group of people were all bark but no bite. Although they were afraid of fighting, they were constantly finding trouble. As soon as it was said, Lu Jingqi and the others looked at each other and their faces turned embarrassed. They could not help but look at Xiao Lanmei, but they could see that he had already gone to the counter to pick his goods and was not paying attention to them. Obviously Xiao Lanmei had no interest in what they were doing, and if they truly became hands-on, Lu Jingqi would be beaten. In their minds the two Lu sisters could only give up their plans. Not long after, Xia Jiqing and the others had picked the herbs and medicines they needed and went to the second floor of the Wubao Pavilion. I heard that Wubao Pavilion's weapons are very famous. The quality of the weapons here are much better than elsewhere. Zhang Yunfeng's pretty face revealed a happy expression. For cultivators, the weapon they used was extremely important. The expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others also appeared interested. As their strength had gradually increased, their current weapons had become unsuitable. They needed to buy some that fit their current strength. I don't know how many weapons this Wubao Pavilion has, but I am quite sure that it should not disappoint us. Dong Fengyu smiled, the alluring peach eyes were filled with boundless charm. When they saw the dazzling weapons on the second floor, all of them had stunned expressions on their faces. So many weapons, they really had not expected this. Swords, knives, staves, polearms, whips, everything could be found here, all of which were in different quality and with different price points. Dear Gusts, are you here to buy weapons? A female shop assistant came to the front of their crowd, her face was beautiful and she held a graceful smile on her lips. I want to buy a sword, Cui Haoyan answered. His sword had been used for a couple of years and now there were 2 dents on it, it was no longer suitable for him to use. He had already wanted to change it earlier, but he had not been able to find something suitable. There were so many weapons in the Wubao Pavilion, he hoped to find a sword that suited him. Please come with me, the shop assistant smiled slightly, turned her body and lifted her left hand, indicating for Cui Haoyan to follow her. Zhang Yunfeng also went together with Cui Haoyan while the others began observing the many weapons on display. With so many treasures gathered here, it was easy to see how strong of a background the Wubao Pavilion had. If there was no strong background, then it would be impossible to create such a place like this. Xia Jiqing's gaze fell on a red and long whip that was laying in front of her. The long whip was extremely tough but at the same time very beautiful. It was a treasure. Jiqing, this long whip is suitable for you. Zhang Yunfeng smiled. Xia Jiqing smiled slightly but when her eyes fell onto the high price of the whip, she let go of it and placed it back. She was not favored in her family, she did not have much money on her, so she couldn't buy this even if she wanted it. Lu Qingyue was together with Gong Shaoqing. Since yesterday where Gong Shaoqing said that he was her fiancé, Lu Qingyue had been very happy. Even if it is fake, she still feels that her relationship with Gong Shaoqing had gotten closer. Zhang Yunfeng, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Xia Jiqing were standing together. Looking at Lu Qingyue who was walking behind Gong Shaoqing like a small chick following its mother, the three could not help but sigh. Lu Qingyue really likes Gong Shaoqing. Gong Shaoqing only helped her out, but she is already this excited. Zhang Yunfeng shook her head and sighed. She had known Gong Shaoqing for a long time, and she was very clear that he only viewed Lu Qingyue as a sister, however Lu Qingyue never understood this. Lu Qingyue has her persistence. Maybe it will bring success in the future, Bailey Hongzhuang answered gently. The feelings between other people was not something they could mess with. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Shaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed. Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me? There is nothing going on between us. Oh? Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhang Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him, but Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. You're all talking nonsense. Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhang Yunfeng could only feel helpless. It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go, Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family, but now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao Pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Shaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare, this Wubao Pavilion is able to sell them, it is really amazing. Let's go up, if we can get an inscription for our weapon that'd be so amazing. Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them, "Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out." Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao Pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion, they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Shaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed. Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me? There is nothing going on between us. Oh? Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhang Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him, but Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. You're all talking nonsense. Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhang Yunfeng could only feel helpless. It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go, Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family, but now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao Pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Shaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare. This Wubao Pavilion is able to sell them, it is really amazing. Let's go up. If we can get an inscription for our weapon, that'd be so amazing. Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them, "Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out." Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao Pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion, they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. The third floor of Wubao Pavilion was not as spectacular as the first or second floor. The inscriptions were all just placed on a small counter. If one ignored the inscriptions that were placed to be sold, it seemed more like a tea house. The layout was very elegant and there was tea placed on various tables. At one of these tables, 3 old men with white beards were facing each other, clearly discussing a certain issue. Their faces had long since turned red. In this case, they instantly guessed that these 3 must be inscription masters, and that they were discussing inscriptions. It could be guessed that these 3 men put all their focus on inscriptions, otherwise they would not have discussed till their faces turned red. When they looked at the counters, the inscriptions for sale should have been drawn by these 3 inscription masters. However, it is clear that the inscription masters are not selling all their inscriptions here. They had just taken some inscriptions out to support the pavilion, most likely just to keep up the agreement they had with the Wubao Pavilion's owner. Otherwise the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion would not look like this. The sales assistant behind the counter could not help but smile after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "Dear guests, have you arrived to buy inscriptions?" Gong Shaoqing and the others nodded and their eyes fell onto the inscription on the counter. There was only one. They could see one pattern, but they did not understand what it did. "What kind of inscription are you looking to buy? You can tell me, and I will introduce what we have," the sales assistant smiled. Gong Shaoqing and the others' eyes brightened. As everyone knew, the inscription could improve their combat ability and the effectiveness of their weapons. It was an excellent aid for the cultivators. Just as everyone was thinking about what inscription they wanted, the practitioners from Beihai College also came up the stairs. They too were very interested in the inscriptions of Wubao Pavilion. They usually had no chance to buy inscriptions. At this moment, they saw that the Kanglan College's students were choosing, and they rushed over. It was impossible they would let them choose any good inscriptions. The college tournament was just around the corner. With an inscriptions they would be able to perform even better. How can they watch their opponents improve like this? "We also want to buy an inscription," Li Jingqi quickly said, and as she said the last sentence she was afraid that the inscription would disappear. The sales assistant said, "Our Wubao Pavilion has a rule, we sell at most 1 inscription a day." When the voice of the sales assistant fell, everyone was surprised. They had never heard about this rule before. They started to think, with so many people present, only one could buy an inscription? So many people want to buy, who will be allowed to buy one then? Gong Shaoqing asked politely. The rules for the sale ought to have a certain reason. There are 2 rules. The one who can answer this question will be able to get an inscription for free. If no one can answer the question, then the highest bidder wins. The sales assistant's face was smiling, he was naturally used to seeing this situation. Dear guests, you all came early today and the inscription has yet to be sold. With the voice of the waiter falling, everyone was feeling excited. They still had a chance. What is the question? There was a look of interest in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. The problem of this Wubao pavilion could not be simple, since just answering it would be able to get an inscription free of charge. Presumably the question was impossible to answer. The eyes of everyone fell onto the shop assistant. The next moment the waiter took a piece of paper and placed it onto the desk in front of them. This is the question. When making an inscription liquid, how do you make azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble dissolve? When everyone saw this problem they were all dumbfounded. They knew nothing about inscriptions, don't even mention the question, they did not even know what azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble was. This kind of problem, only an inscription master can answer. Xia Jiqing said and felt a little sad. She knew the problem wouldn't be simple, but this was far too difficult. Lu Jingqi and the others faced each other, they simply knew nothing about it, this was impossible to answer. Seeing the look of these people, the sales assistant was not surprised. In fact, basically no one can answer the questions made by these inscription masters. However, the inscriptions were very precious, it was not a simple matter to take one out for free. After seeing this question, Bailey Hongzhuang found it somewhat fun. The inscription masters had intentionally made it difficult for everyone. Even those with a little bit of understanding about inscriptions would be unable to answer. If she thought about it a bit, she can't help but think that the elders were doing it on purpose. From the beginning till the end they never intended to give it out for free, it was just to make everyone understand and retreat. If there is no such rule, they were afraid people would complain about only selling one inscription a day. As for the result, the attention of people had been transferred. No one knows the answer, so let's just see who has the most money, Shui Haoling said. Obviously no one at the scene could answer in his opinion. The eyes of Xia Jiqing and the others fell on Shui Haoling's body. They knew he was a rich young master. However, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, "Who said that no one can answer this question?" When the words came out everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a puzzled expression. Bailey Hongzhuang, you should not be stubborn, you'll just end up as a joke. Lu Jingqi sneered. An inscription master was not someone easy to come into contact with and it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know about inscriptions. Xiao Lanmei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a strange way, this kind of moment was not ideal to show off in. In fact, only an inscription master could answer this kind of question. Xia Jiqing and the others were also puzzled. They only know that Bailey Hongzhuang is an alchemist, they never knew she had an understanding about inscriptions. Take the azure spirit wood grain and the tailless marble and grind them, then mix them with the juice of a green jade vine tree, cook it with fire, then it will immediately dissolve, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Lu Jingqi and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was completely self-confident and they became doubtful. What was the green jade vine tree juice? They had never heard about it before. Lu Qinyue's heat was also filled with doubt. She knew about medicinal herbs, but she knew nothing about metal ores or the like. When Bai Jingtian and the others listened to Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes suddenly shone brightly. The answer she had given was exactly what they had been discussing. This girl seemed to have some knowledge about inscriptions, and the answer she gave was so simple. The problem had plagued them for 3 days and yet they had not found a solution yet. As for experiments, they had done many before, and when they were younger, an explosion would have been no problem. It's just that they are older now, if it really exploded they'd lose their lives. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian quickly asked, "Little girl, what would you add?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to face Bai Jingtian and the others, her lips curled into a smile, "Star powder." Star powder? Bai Jingtian and the others looked at each other with a moment of enlightenment. Star powder is very soft, and together with the condensate liquid it can neutralize the violent nature of the fiery ardent stone alongside the coolness of the black crown gold ore. Ji Yanma said. Oh, I never thought about it. Bai Jingtian slapped his head. He had thought of many solutions, but he did not think about star powder before. Qin Qingyi nodded. This star powder is also a problem. A small amount is not enough, but if we use too much it will also be useless. All three were surprised. They had never before seen a young person like Bailey Hongzhuang before. What's more, this girl was only a teenager, how could she understand it so well? It was hard to encounter such a good seedling, how could they allow her to leave now? Bai Jingtian couldn't help but say, "Little girl, quickly come back and tell us." He had thought about this question for a long time and could find no solution. Now it was amazing that a little girl knew the answer when she heard them talk. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was not going to follow the script. "Dear predecessors, you have already told this young one to leave. It so happens that I have some things I need to finish, so I will take my leave." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian and the other people were so anxious that they quickly got up and went to her side. Bai Jingtian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his face was gently and held a smile. Little girl isn't happy with how things were before. This young one wouldn't dare to be unhappy, Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. This old man apologizes to you for before. Come and discuss with us, how much star powder should we use? Bai Jingtian smiled and did not feel any shame from apologizing to a junior. As soon as she saw Bai Jingtian, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but think of the old guys in her previous Bailey family. They were clearly the same kind of adorable old men. Not waiting for an answer from Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian and Ji Yanma had already pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into one of the chairs. Lu Jingqi squinted at the scene in front of her eyes. The situation changed too fast, and she was too stunned. What kind of joke was this? Did Bailey Hongzhuang really understand inscriptions? Not only that, she even solved a problem that these three masters were plagued by. How could this be? However, all of this was true. Not only Lu Jingqi, the people at the counter also noticed this scene. They all saw that the three inscription masters were angry, but suddenly they all changed their attitude and even apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang. So astonishing! What did Bailey Hongzhuang do? My God! Are those three inscription masters? They even apologized to Hongzhuang, she's simply a little freak. Zhang Yanfeng could not help but feel that when Bailey Hongzhuang acted it was simply earth-shattering, her little heart could not handle this much excitement. Dong Fengyu's eyes were also filled with appreciation. Bailey Hongzhuang was too outstanding and always dazzling. When did Hongzhuang learn about so much about inscriptions? She even knows so much about them. Hongzhuang is my idol. Xia Jiqing's eyes were filled with reverence, in her heart Bailey Hongzhuang was omnipotent. Even inscriptions, such a difficult thing, she knew about. She had doubts about how it was possible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know so many things. Bailey Hongzhuang was only 16 years old, she was strong, proficient in alchemy, and now it seemed that she was also knowledgeable about inscriptions. Even if she had used all her time since she was born, it would be hard to be this accomplished, but it had really happened in front of her. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with shock. From the time she was born she had always been called a genius by everyone. Not only was her strength superior to most, but she also had excellent talent for alchemy. However, only she knew how difficult it was for her to learn how to refine pills, and she never felt that she had enough time. If it was not accompanied by a strong determination she'd never have succeeded. However, Bailey Hongzhuang not only had cultivation and alchemy, she also had time to understand inscription. Was she even human? The most important thing was that she was able to answer the question of the three inscription masters. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's knowledge about inscriptions was not shallow. She should be very proficient in inscriptions. When thinking about this, Lu Qinyue felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was a real freak. She could not imagine the future achievements of Bailey Hongzhuang. What a freak! Lu Jinglin had a disdainful look in her eyes. She would never admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was good. Maybe she just happened to hear someone mention the answer to this question. At such a tender age, how could she possibly understand and answer the questions of the inscription masters otherwise? When thinking about it, no one believed that the answer was something that Bailey Hongzhuang had come up with on her own. After making sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was seated, Bai Jingtian could not help but ask, "Little girl, how should we add the star powder? When should we add it?" After knowing that they could use star powder, he had more or less understood the problem. However, he wanted to know if this little girl would come up with the same solution as him. First add the fiery ardent stone and then the black crow gold Oregon. Add the condensate liquid together for 5 minutes and then add it. For inscriptions, Bailey Hongzhuang did not have absolute confidence, but she was very confident in configuring inscription liquids. Because during the time she had learned inscriptions in the Ring of Chaos, she had learned about the properties and different metal ores and what else to pay attention to when configuring inscription liquid. Just like the first thing to understand when studying alchemy was the understanding of the herbs, only after learning the herbs could one start learning alchemy. The old man within the Ring of Chaos had a deep understanding towards inscriptions. Her memory was also very good. She was able to remember a large amount of metal ores and the differences between these metal ores in the long time she had been studying. Up until now, she still had a lot of things that were hard to understand for her, but most of the problems about configuring inscription liquid could be solved by her. However, when the words of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, Bai Jingtian and the others all had puzzled expressions on their faces. This method was different from the one they had expected. "Why should we add it after 5 minutes?" Ji Yanma asked. He had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so accurate, but he felt that this could be the correct way to do it, making him feel very excited. Star powder is a very strange thing. If it is added before this, the star powder will be added into the liquid. If the quantity is too little, it will not be able to completely neutralize it either. If you add too much, the effect of the inscription liquid will also drop a lot. The effect of the inscription drawn with that liquid will be greatly reduced. Therefore, after 5 minutes of trying to melt the two ores, when the conflict between the fiery ardent stone and the black crow gold ore is getting more and more intense, just add a small amount of star powder, then the problem will be completely solved. The exquisite and perfect face was filled with confidence. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang fell on the 3 elders. "I don't know what you 3 seniors felt about it." Bai Jingtian and the other 2 had fallen into deep contemplation. What Bailey Hongzhuang had said was very reasonable. What they had been thinking about before was to put these materials together before smelting them, but Bailey Hongzhuang's method was much more suitable. Somehow this young little girl had opened a new door for them, making their vision wider. Yes, this method is excellent. It perfectly solves the problem. Qin Qingyi was simply too excited. No matter what angle he considered it from, there was no problems with this. If there was no such solution, they were afraid they would have been fighting seriously to solve this problem. Bai Jingtian smiled a happy smile and asked, "Little girl, what is your name?" Compared to the previous dissatisfaction with Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian was now much more happy and found her extremely pleasing to the eye. Such a young and promising junior, he had not seen one in many years. It was indeed a great seedling in the inscription world. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and saluted the elders. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang being so polite, Bai Jingtian's eyes were filled with admiration. Such young people were rare. "Bailey girl, how could you know how to solve this problem?" Ji Yanma could not help but ask. The age of Bailey Hongzhuang was just too young. If she was older, it'd not be so amazing as it was now. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and then thought of the excuse she had used earlier. It seemed it was time to use it again. The younger generation had previously learned a lot from my master, so I was able to answer the question. Bai Jingtian and the other 2 men looked at each other. The answer of Bailey Hongzhuang was modest, however the meaning was clear. Thinking like this, Bai Jingtian and the others felt that the master of Bailey Hongzhuang was in no way a simple character. "Bailey girl, I wonder if you can tell me your master's name?" Qin Qingwu's eyes were filled with curiosity. This famous teacher might be someone world-renowned. The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could have such achievements at such a young age showed that her master could not be a nobody. Bailey Hongzhuang tried hard not to laugh as she answered, "My master has a strange temper, he is like a wild crane who likes to wander the world. He does not like me telling his name." Hearing this by Jing Tian and the other two were not finding it strange. Some supreme experts like to live the life of a wild crane. Even they, as elders, were too lazy to pay attention to many disputes and issues in the mundane world, they just wanted to live leisurely lives. "We understand," Bai Jingtian waved his hand, "your master must be renowned to be able to teach such a good student like yourself." Bai Jingtian knew that although he was an inscription master, next to Bailey Hongzhuang's master, he could not lift his head at all. Because the disciple of this man could solve a problem they could not understand, this meant that the other was simply too powerful. "Girl, I have a question here, it is good if you could answer it for me." Ji Yanma revealed a curious gleam in his eyes, he wanted to know how much knowledge Bailey Hongzhuang had about inscriptions. Answering their question might just be a fluke, maybe she had just randomly heard her master mention this one question. Unless she could answer other questions, she was quite useless. "Please ask." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently and Bai Jingtian exchanged glances with the other men. She seemed to have returned to her past life where the old men had been trying to teach her and test her. She really missed this feeling. "Cat's-eye-colored glass stones and fiery ardent stones, how do you dissolve them together into an inscription liquid?" Fiery ardent stones were a metal that was often used when making inscriptions of the fire attribute, but because it was so violent, it was easy to have problems, therefore the inscription masters had a lot of questions about this stone. It was a love and hate relationship. Bai Jingtian and Qin Qingwu also smiled as they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They also wanted to know if she could answer this question. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three faces, and a gentle smile spread on her lips. Cat's-eye-colored glass stones are mild and has no problem being mixed with the fiery ardent stone. It is just that the cat's-eye-colored glass stones are so hard that it is difficult to grind them into powder, however it can be done if you add a bit of black meteor liquid, then it can be dissolved. However, I had this idea that with the compatibility of the two, if you add a bit of fine powder from the gold-plated stone, I think that the effect of the inscription liquid would be even better. Bailey Hongzhuang said directly. This was an idea she came up with after getting an extensive understanding of the different metal ores. At the same time she also has her own ideas, just like the old man in the Ring of Chaos, he often made some unexpected mixes and after some time achieved good results. Inscriptions is an art that required a variety of experiments to increase the performance of the inscription liquid. Golden-plated stone powder. Bai Jingtian frowned slightly. This idea had never been proposed before, but the golden-plated stone powder really had this possibility. If this is really possible, then the inscriptions he could draw would be increased in strength again. At the thought of this, Bai Jingtian was suddenly even more excited. "No, I have to go back and try it. This method is really good." Bai Jingtian was filled with excitement. Why did he never think about this possibility before? Not only Bai Jingtian, also Ji Yanma and Qin Qingwu were enlightened by Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. Over the years some issues had been causing them to have problems with their inscriptions. At this moment, the few words of Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to help them enter a whole new world. Some of the problems that had been impossible to solve before were suddenly being able to find a solution to with her way of thinking. "I need to hurry back and test these ideas, I will come back and talk with you later." Ji Yanma was the first to say. At this current moment many thoughts were flashing in his mind, and he had to go back now to try them all out, otherwise, if this inspiration vanished and he forgot about it, then he would regret it. Seeing the three men vanish like this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but grin. These old men were truly adorable. As soon as they were deeply engrossed in an idea they had no chance to think about anything else. Wasn't this just too adorable? Lu Jinqi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, unsure of what to say. It was obvious to her now that Bailey Hongzhuang truly understood inscriptions. Not only did she understand inscriptions, she was able to discuss with the inscription masters on equal footing, and even help these masters resolve some doubts. It would be reasonable to say that at her current age, that was impossible, Bailey Hongzhuang was simply a monster. Seeing that the three inscription masters left like the wind one by one, Xia Jiqing and the others could not help but come to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Hongzhuang, what happened? Xia Jiqing looked towards the exit. What happened to the three inscription masters? Not only Xia Jiqing, Gong Shaoqing and the others were all looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with doubt. This was too weird. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. They just thought of some very important questions. Everyone listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, but the doubts within their hearts did not dissipate. What kind of question could make all of them rush away in such a hurry? The cultivators of Beihai College could not help but look at Lu Jingqi. They had previously worried that the inscription masters would be unhappy if they came too close, so they dared not advance. Therefore they had no understanding of what happened. Lu Jingqi shook her head at them. She was not sure how to explain it. Okay, has the inscription been picked out? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. We picked one that was suitable for Gong Shaoqing. Xia Jiqing smiled. Cui Haoyan and the others also nodded their heads. Gong Shaoqing was the strongest among them, when not counting Bailey Hongzhuang. With the strength of this inscription, his strength would definitely improve once more. As a result, he would be able to gain an even better result at the college tournament. After all, the college tournament would only care for the first place. The first-placed cultivator would determine the winner of the entire tournament. Depending on what college they came from, that college would win the tournament. Although they all thought they would do well, they might as well do their best to optimize their success rate. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shaoqing were the two most promising people, therefore in the time of selecting who should have the inscription, no one was in doubt. Gong Shaoqing was the one they all wanted to have it. That's great, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Gong Shaoqing was already strong, and now he was even stronger. When the cultivators of Beihai College saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had solved the situation so indifferently, they also found it somewhat unbelievable. As a cultivator, was it really possible to be so modest? What mattered most was your own strength. The cultivators of Kanglan College were really different. They even faintly thought that they were too promising, but they quickly let go of their thought again. Since we've already chosen one, let's leave. Bailey Hongzhuang was smiling sweetly. Wubao Pavilion was truly worthy of its name, but they had already seen it all. There was no point in staying any longer. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads as they quickly headed for the stairs. Dear guests, walk slowly. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were leaving, the shop assistant rushed out to say goodbye. The girl was simply too amazing and deserved respect. This was the first time someone had been able to answer the question, and it was also the first time that the three inscription masters had treated anyone like this. This alone showed how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang was. After the people left the Wubao Pavilion, the practitioners of Beihai College also decided to leave very fast. However, they secretly decided to hurry back early in the following morning. Even if the price was high, they would get an inscription. Since they sold an inscription a day, they still had a chance. Let's return to the inn, Lu Qingyue said. The originally happy and excited mood was a bit complicated after meeting Beihai College. This group of people truly destroyed the mood. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. We met a group of people who can destroy someone's appetite. I don't feel like walking about right now. Xia Jiqing's words did nothing to hide anything, so the sound could easily be heard by others. The cultivators of Beihai College also heard it, their expression becoming ugly in an instant. When the tournament begins, we have to teach them how to behave. Lu Jingqi's face was full of anger. Ever since meeting Xia Jiqing and the others, her mood had been bad. Jingqi, that Bailey Hongzhuang really understood inscriptions? Lu Jinglin went to the side of Lu Jinghui and grabbed her hand. The eyes were filled with curiosity. Lu Jingqi nodded slightly. Looking at the way she was speaking with the three inscription masters, she should have understood them. Hearing the answer from Lu Jingqi, the feelings of Shui Haoling and the others changed slightly. Being an inscriptionist was a very respected profession. Being an inscriptionist meant that one had a much higher status than others. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be an inscriptionist. Xiao Lanmei's lips curled into a slight smile, but it did not reach his eyes, which stayed emotionless. The next morning, Huan Chuyu gathered Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The reason for this was that the president and the vice president of the Lingyin College had personally come to pick them up. This result did not surprise Bailey Hongzhuang, she had already been expecting it. Old friend, long time no see, a middle-aged man wearing a black robe slowly walked in. Compared to Huan Chuyu, he was a lot younger. However, the appearance and temperament showed that he was far from ordinary. At a simple glance at him, Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed his identity. This arrogant man was the principal of Lingyin College, Jian Qingqiu. After seeing Jian Qingqiu, Huan Chuyu's face was cold. Principal Jian. For the humiliation they had suffered in front of Lingyin College, Huan Chuyu had clearly not forgotten, and now he had to show his attitude to Jian Qingqiu. If he was letting it be, wouldn't the other party just step all over them? Huan Chuyu was cold and his expression was ugly, but the smile on Jian Qingqiu's face never changed. Old friend Huan, previously I was in closed-do cultivation, so I did not know that such a big thing happened, and it made you unhappy. Lingyin College is getting bigger and bigger now, even a guard can treat us like that. It seems that the principal wants us to lose face. The voice of Huan Chuyu was showing his slight annoyance. The thoughts of Jian Qingqiu, how could he not understand them? Retreating? With the simple and clear temperament, how was it possible for him to retreat? He would do anything in his power to win this. They had lived in this inn for 2 days already. If Jian Qingqiu really put any importance on them, then he would have arrived long ago, not just now. He was just showing off. Since he was showing off, then Huan Chuyu would also show him what it meant to show off. Old friend, I am really not aware of this situation, Jian Qingqiu quickly said. When I heard about this matter, I instantly fired the guard. He dared to balk you like this, he truly had no eyes to see how important you are. However, Huan Chuyu was unmoved. Old friend, what the principal said was true. I hope you will be the bigger person and not squabble with a guard. The vice principal of Lingyin College also said. I don't believe that a mere guard has the courage to act like that. Huan Chuyu's eyebrow rose slightly. Today, Kanglin College and Lingyin College had long since fallen out. Since they were doomed to be enemies, why should he allow his students to suffer? You have to give me an explanation for this situation. Huan Chuyu had a serious expression on his face. This was related to the reputation of the entire college and the face of the students. If Lingyin College does not give them an explanation, then they will be ridiculed a lot more when entering the Lingyin College. He did not want to see this. Seeing Huan Chuyu being so firm, Jian Qingqiu and Lin Ninghao couldn't help but look at one another. They had not expected that he would be so firm about this situation and not let go at all. They had wanted to make a quick solution or this problem, but now it seemed that it was impossible. Old friend, this happened because of our Lingyin College not handling things well. I will apologize to you. Jian Qingqiu said, as for the guard daring to do such things, I will investigate clearly and give you an explanation. Is this good enough? Jian Qingqiu was quick to apologize. What he wanted was to thoroughly defeat the college through the tournament, so he did not care about apologizing for this matter. After the failure of Kanglin College once more, who would care about what Huan Chuyu said? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at one another. On the surface this principal was quite good. If they did not know better, they might even be tempted to believe that he would really give them an explanation. However, after experiencing many things, they already knew how to tell the truth from lies. If it was not for the sake of the tournament, Jian Qingqiu would not even have come to find them. Seeing the change in Jian Qingqiu's attitude, the coldness on Huan Chuyu's face faded slightly. Then we will wait for Principal Jian to give us an explanation. What a stubborn old man. Jian Qingqiu's heart was swearing, but on his face a sincere smile was making it impossible to see his true thoughts. Of course. In the last few days, you and your students have lived in this inn. I have already prepared a place for you to stay at the college. Since the problem has already been solved, it would be much better for you to follow us back to the college. Otherwise, others might say that our hospitality is lacking. Lin Yinghao also said, the principal has done the best he could. Tomorrow is the day that the college tournament begins. It is more convenient if you are at the college already. What a group of old foxes. Are they really that afraid that we will run away? Bai Junyu sneered. Tomorrow was the day that the college tournament would begin. It was not before now that they came to ask them to move into the Lingyin College. Seeing this, it was likely that they were seriously afraid that they would leave like this. What else could possibly be the reason? Xia Jiqing's eyes revealed her disgust. We have to perform well at the college tournament. Now it was no longer just a question about the college's honor. They were up against a college that they loathed. They would do almost anything to be able to leave the Lingyin College victoriously. Haven't they just won 2 consecutive tournaments? What's so great about it? Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shaoqing, it's up to you two to beat them up. Bai Junyu's face was filled with anger. Their interaction with Lingyin College had not been pleasant so far. Also, the insult and humiliation they had suffered before, they had not forgotten. Listening to the words of Bai Junyu, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Gong Shaoqing had a bit of helplessness in their eyes. They had thought that Bai Junyu was preparing to shock the opponents with his strength at the tournament. They did not expect that he was throwing it all on their shoulders. This guy was really... In the end, after the invitation of Jian Qingqiu and Lin Yinghao, Huan Chuyu took Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to Lingyin College. However, this time was vastly different from the first time. This time the president and vice president were personally leading the way. Who would dare to stop them? All the way to the Lingyin College went smoothly, and they all saw what the inside of Lingyin College was truly like. They had already known earlier that Lingyin College had a strong financial backing. The equipment of the college had to be the best of the best, but when they saw it with their own eyes did they realize that it was even grander than they had originally thought. Sure enough, this is a royal college. This is a perfect arrangement. It's just more glamorous and gorgeous. It's actually useless apart from looking good. Xia Jiqing snorted. She was so disgusted with the Lingyin College that all that she saw was useless in her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly understood the situation of the Lingyin College. The campus was much larger than Kanglin College, and it also had more students. However, she had already heard that a large area of the Lingyin College was exclusive to members of the Royal College. The royal family held the highest status here. They were high above and never interacted with the ordinary cultivators. As such, the amount of ordinary students at the Lingyin College was not much more than what the Kanglin College had. Under the guidance of the principal and vice principal, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were slowly led to their accommodation. It happened to be in the same building as the Beihai College students. Oh, that's the students of Kanglin College. I heard that they were blocked outside the college and left. I did not expect that they would be picked up by the principal and vice principal today. Kanglin College already lost twice in a row. This time they will undoubtedly lose again. The fact that the principal and vice principal have to pick them up, do they even deserve this honor? Let them be. Today they can feel a bit of prestige. Tomorrow when the tournament begins, they will just be a joke. The cultivators of Lingyin College were obviously looking down on the cultivators from Kanglin College. At the moment when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they did not hesitate to ridicule them with their words. Listening to the words of everyone around them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had the same expressionless faces. They had long since expected this. It was obvious that the teachers and the principals of the Lingyin College had been degrading the students of Kanglin College in front of their own students. Otherwise, how could all of them be like this? The students of Lingyin College are all really annoying. Little Black's eyes were full of anger. What a joke. These useless idiots even dared to laugh at their owner? Absolutely looking for death. I want to directly slap their mouths. Little White was even angrier. These people, if they don't want their face, then they could just shut up completely. Kanglin College has lost twice in a row. It is expected that these people will mock us. If I want to shut them up, then I have to rely on my own strength. Bailey Hongzhuang was very casual as she was facing this. The unrelenting sarcasm and the verbal attacks could not affect her at all. Compared to the ridicule she had suffered before, this was truly nothing. Instead of being unhappy about this kind of thing, it was much better to think about how to make all these people unhappy tomorrow. Xia Jiqing was full of anger. These people were truly too much. The faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others were also ugly. They had always been respected and worshipped in Kanglin College. Now they were the ones to be ridiculed by everyone. The gap was truly too big. Jian Qingqiu also heard the words of the people around him, but he pretended that he heard nothing and never stopped them. The smile on his face even extended slightly. This building has been prepared for you to rest. You can relax until the college tournament begins tomorrow morning, Jian Qingqiu laughed. Huan Chuyu said to Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, bring the students inside and settle. I have some things I need to discuss with the principal. Lu Huayan nodded slightly and immediately led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others inside. Mentor, these students from the Lingyin College are too annoying. As soon as they walked down the corridor, Xia Jiqing couldn't help it anymore and complained. Even the hospitality was so bad. This was truly disgusting. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba's faces were also not pretty. Lingyin College has always been too much. You have been wronged by them. Listening to the words of the mentor, Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed slightly. They were already so unhappy, so they could imagine that their mentors and the vice principal were even unhappier. As long as we defeat the practitioners of Lingyin College tomorrow, then they will shut up completely, Cui Haoyan said coldly. I have received news that Nangong Aochen will not appear in the beginning. He won't come out before the finals, so you won't meet him tomorrow. Lu Huayan added. The strength Nangong Aochen held allowed him to obtain this privilege. In front of this tournament, if you wanted to fight Nangong Aochen, then you had to win. It is not meaningful to just participate in the tournament, it was best to give the chance of fighting Nangong Aochen to someone strong. Mentor, then what about the cultivators of Beihai College? Lu Qingyue could not help but ask. Bai Junyu was also puzzled. Yes, what about them? They have also lost 2 consecutive tournaments, why are they so proud? He really could not understand this point. Obviously they were also losers. Fu Hongba's face showed a bit of helplessness, that is because the first place in the last 2 college tournaments has been Lingyin College, while second place has been Beihai College. Kanglin College has placed third both times. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others suddenly understood, one after another, they had been last. It really sounded quite bad. Seeing the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Lu Huayan could not help but say, the reason that Kanglin College is always last, is because Lingyin College and Beihai College have joined forces. In the previous tests, the students of Lingyin College severely hurt our students, so it was naturally impossible for them to get good results on the second day. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba's eyes gleamed with anger. If the other side did not use such underhanded means, they might not have failed, but because of their actions, they lost in this way. How could they accept it? Seriously, the Lingyin and Beihai colleges are simply too much. Bai Junyu cursed, this was despicable and shameless, the other party did not even want their faces. Lu Huayan was helpless, there might be injuries in this tournament. The other party will claim it was by accident, we are helpless to do anything. This time you must be careful. Even if you can't win, make sure you don't die. Although the results are important, in our eyes, you are more important, Fu Hongba said seriously. When the words came out, everyone's hearts were touched. Compared to many mentors who only cared about results, Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba always put their safety first. The strongest amongst the cultivators of Beihai College is Xiao Lanmei, he has also broken through to the innate realm. Once you meet him you have to be extra careful. As the 2 mentors explained the situation of the different students from the 2 colleges, the mood of everyone turned heavy. Lingyin College had 2 cultivators in the innate realm, there was also one in the Beihai College. These 2 colleges had united, while Kanglin only had Beili Hongzhuang at the innate realm. As a result, they were in a difficult position. Gong Shaoqing was right on the verge of breaking through the innate realm, but a slight bottleneck was in the way. It was a pity that breaking through to the innate realm required opportunities. Only by grasping the opportunity could they successfully break through, otherwise they had no other choice than to wait. Although the face of Gong Shaoqing was expressionless, his heart was a bit eager. If he could successfully break into the innate realm, then their success rate would increase a lot. When Beili Hongzhuang returned to her room, Little Black and Little White had jumped directly from her head and sat on the table opposite to Beili Hongzhuang. "Master, this situation is not very good," Little Black frowned. "We do not know how strong this Nangong Aochin is." Little White nodded. "He broke through to the innate realm 2 years ago, and with the cultivation resources and heritage of the royal family, I believe he has at least reached the 4th stage of the Red World." Baisher climbed from the arms of Beili Hongzhuang onto the table, its face filled with expectations. "Master, can I participate together with you?" Hearing this, Little White's eyes shone brightly. "Yes. Baisher is Master's contracted beast, it should be able to fight alongside you." In the Xingxian continent, a contract beast is also a part of the cultivator's strength, and it can be used without it being considered cheating. Beili Hongzhuang's eyes were flashing in deep thought. "I don't know the rules yet, but I will know when the tournament starts tomorrow. If you can bring Baisher to the tournament, naturally that would be for the best. If you can't, then there is nothing to do about it. After all, this is a college tournament, they should officially care about fairness, so they might not allow pets to fight." The next day, Beili Hongzhuang and the others gathered outside the house early in the morning. Here, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huayan, and Fu Hongba stood and waited for them all. "This college tournament begins today. Tomorrow is also a tournament, the 3rd day is the alchemy tournament, and on the final day is the finale," Huan Chuyu said slowly. Since they went to the ruins, Lu Qingyue had focused fully on refining medicines, so she had a chance of winning this tournament. Not only Lu Qingyue, Lingyin College and Beihai College also had cultivators who participated in the alchemy tournament, so today's fight had 7 people from each college, a total of 21. Amongst these 21, Nangong Aochin had already advanced to the final, making it so that today, only 20 college students would participate in the battles. "This time the fight is related to the reputation of our school. I hope you can all do your best and get good results." Huan Chiyou's voice was solemn, looking at Beili Hongzhuang and the others with a deep pride. While Nangong Aochin was the most valued student in Lingyin College, these students were the most valued in Kanglin College. "Vice Principal, rest assured, we will do our best." Bai Junyu was the first to answer, his expression serious. This matter was not only about the college's reputation, but also for their own honor and disgrace. Beili Hongzhuang, Gong Shaoqing, and the others nodded their heads. Now that they were here, there was no way to back away. Seeing the expressions on Gong Shaoqing and the others, the faces of Huan Chuyu and the 2 mentors were all happy. "You just need to do your best. I believe in your strength, but your life is the most important. Although the tournament states you can't kill, it is hard to avoid getting yourself hurt. You should be careful." "We understand. Since everyone is ready, let's set out." Huan Chiyou's face was filled with a faint, prideful expression as he led Beili Hongzhuang and the others to the ground where the tournament was being held. Today was the most lively day in the entire Lingyin College because of the college tournament. Early in the morning many students rushed to the contest grounds, they wanted to witness the glory of Lingyin College. Chapter 711, Princess Nangong Yuer. Listening to Cui Haoyan's words, everyone was somewhat stunned. It seems that Lingyin College is certain of success and wants more people to see their victory. Beili Hongzhuang's eyebrow raised slightly. A college tournament was usually only for the students of the college, outsiders should not be allowed inside to watch. Lingyin College's move was a bit unexpected. Not only this, Lu Qingyue said slowly, "It is said that tomorrow, at the final, the Qing dynasty's emperor will also come and watch, they are very sure of themselves. Together with the end of Lu Qinyue's sentence, the expression on the others' faces changed again. It seemed that the Lingyin College wanted to make this into a big matter. Nangong Aochen is the crown prince of the Qing dynasty. He will be extraordinarily strong in battle, we have to be very careful. Gong Shaoqing said slowly. After Bailey Hongzhuang and her friends walked into the dense crowd of people, they saw that the cultivators from Lingyin and Beihai College had already arrived. The faces of these people held a deep smile. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, their smiles even showed a dense sarcasm. The students of Kanglin College are really important, they showed up last. Lu Jingqi said coldly. A woman from Lingyin College listened to her words, after which she said, they know that they will be shamed by coming here today. Naturally, they won't come early. The woman was wearing a pink and purple dress. Her skin was fair and white and her appearance was outstanding. A strong pride and elegance could be seen in her aura. This was the royal princess, Nangong Yue. They are too much. How bad was Xia Jiqing's temper? The moment she heard the words of Nangong Yue and Lu Jingqi, she couldn't help but want to argue. However, Bailey Hongzhuang pulled her back and said, they have a lot of people. We won't be at an advantage, so don't let them use us to start a fight. It is better to say they can see the real fight on stage. Xia Jiqing's face turned a myriad of colors, but she knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was correct. If they fight now, then that is not a good thing. I pray for me and Lu Jingqi to be in the same group, I have to tear her mouth apart. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with anger, this annoying woman, she definitely would not allow her to be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and the eyes she used to look at Lu Jingqi were cold. This woman was arguing all day long, but her actual strength was so weak. If Xia Jiqing really had the opportunity to be in the same group as Lu Jingqi, that would be good, then she could be taught a lesson. Gong Shaoqing and the others directly ignored the words of the people around them. In this kind of environment, only their strength would be able to show their qualities. Like Lu Jingqi, they thought she was just a clown jumping around. After seeing the team from Kanglin College, a deep smile spread across the face of Jian Qingqiu. The next moment, Jian Qingqiu went directly to the high platform and his handsome face was full of joy and held a smile. Today the college tournament begins. The college tournament is a tradition between our three colleges, which has existed since the beginning of our colleges in an attempt to promote the cultivation of our students. I now announce that the college tournament officially begins. With the words of Jian Qingqiu falling, thunderous applause spread out around them. Everyone had waited for this moment for a long time. Chapter 712, Love at First Sight. This college tournament uses lottery to determine your opponents. There are 7 cultivators from each college who participates in the contest. Because of the special status of Crown Prince Nangong Aochen, he directly advances to the final. Hearing this, no one present thought there was anything wrong with this. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Nangong Aochen, was the pride of everyone within the Qing dynasty. At such a young age he became the #1 student in Lingyin College. His strength was extremely powerful, and his talent was outstanding. They felt he was unparalleled in this world. Because of this there are only 20 cultivators who will participate in the battles today. In order to show fairness, 5 cultivators from Beihai and Kanglin College are sent to do the picking for the lottery. The winners will successfully advance to the second round, the losers will be eliminated. Jian Qingqiu's words directly introduced the rules of the tournament to everyone. His words were simple and clear. If there is no doubt, you can start the drawing process now. Jian Qingqiu's face was filled with a big smile as a lottery box appeared in front of him. Inside the box were all the students' names. The students who had been picked to do the drawing were on the high platform, and when they took out a name, that name would be plotted down. Neither Bailey Hongzhuang nor Gong Shaoqing went to draw. However, their opponent was, they were prepared. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with shock. They had not expected that she was a member of the Kanglin College team. So, were the words said by Mo Yinjue that day fake? After all, the cultivators from the Kanglan College had not arrived in the Qing dynasty before 2 days prior. How could they possibly know Mo Yinjue? Yujin, did they trick us? Nangong Xiujie's face was gloomy. He was so old, but he had never been played like this before. Because of the actions that day being too big, even their father, the emperor, had blamed them for what had happened. Since this matter affected the way their father looked at them, they could definitely not let it go. Nangong Yujin's face was also ugly. If that is the case, then Mo Yinjue's courage is too big. They are imperial princes, but to treat them like this, was this no different than how monkeys were treated? Even if he has a certain background, he cannot be so excessive. After asking our third sister, we will know. Nangong Xiujie's eyes sparkled as he was in deep thoughts. Mo Yinjue was not a simple character. They can't just do as they please, they had to find out the ins and outs of this matter. Nangong Yujin's eyebrows rose slightly. I'll ask her. Since the first time Nangong Yue saw Mo Yinjue, she had been very concerned about him. She did everything to see him often, but even though he avoided her, she never gave up. For news about Mo Yinjue, they believed that Nangong Yue would definitely know more than them. Yue, have you seen Mo Gongzi recently? Nangong Yujin asked. Hearing the question, Nangong Yue's eyes flashed in a strange color. Third brother, why do you ask me about Mo Gongzi? She knew about the character of her third brother. He would never ask without a reason. She is from Kanglan College, how can she know Mo Gongzi? Nangong Yue looked suspicious. There was simply no way they could have interacted. Third brother, are you perhaps mistaken? Chapter 714, Lottery Results. Nangong Yujin shrugged. If your third brother can make a mistake with such a thing, then I am definitely not your third brother. This is not something only I saw, even second brother was seeing it with his own 2 eyes. Nangong Yujin did not say much after having said this and went straight back to where he was before. Seeing that Nangong Yujin was so serious about it, Nangong Yue was no longer doubtful. Next, her eyes fell onto Bailey Hongzhuang again. This damn woman dared to grab her man. With her identity as a princess, how could Bailey Hongzhuang as a civilian ever compare? Anyway, she had decided on Mo Yinjue, so Mo Yinjue could only become her man. As for any obstacles she encountered, she would eradicate them completely. Bailey Hongzhuang was waiting for the result of the lottery when she suddenly felt a gaze filled with hostility focused on her. She could not help but look towards the source of the gaze, where she saw Nangong Yue stare at her with a malicious expression. It was as if they were enemies unable to live under the same sky. In Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes was a bit of doubt. Although she and Nangong Yue is in different camps and were unlikely to like each other, it is strange to suddenly have such hatred for one another. Even if she offended Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin, these two people had yet to act. What was the deal with this girl? After thinking about it for a bit, Bailey Hongzhuang decided to directly ignore it. Since Nangong Yue hates her so much, naturally she will understand it at some point. Soon the results of the draw were out. Lin Yinghao slowly read what people had drawn. Xiao Lanmei fights against Nangong Yujin. Bailey Hongzhuang is against Lu Jinglin. Xia Jiqing against Lu Jingqi. Soon everyone knew their opponents. The people from Kanglan College were fortunate to have not drawn anyone from their own college. However, 2 cultivators from Beihai College drew each other. However, whether or not Kanglan College was lucky was yet to be determined. Because, when you draw your own students, at least one from your college will advance. If they win their battles, it is naturally the best, and if they advance, then Beihai College will be worse than them. When Xia Jiqing saw that she had drawn Lu Jingqi, she was excited. This damn woman, today she could teach her how to behave. Lu Jingqi was also happy when she heard that her opponent was Xia Jiqing. If someone asked her who she hated the most within the Kanglan team, she would not say Bailey Hongzhuang but Xia Jiqing. Today is a chance to give Xia Jiqing a lesson. Jingqi, you have an opportunity to solve your hatred, perform well. Lu Jinglin gently placed a hand on Lu Jingqi's shoulder. Every tournament is a good chance to show off. If you have good achievements at this tournament, it will be a great help for your future. Sister, rest assured, I will definitely get her to bed for forgiveness. Just, Lu Jingqi's mood is bad when she thought about her sister. From the mentors they understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was very strong. She was afraid that her sister was not her opponent. Lu Jingqi and Lu Jinglin were thinking the same at this moment in time, and both felt very helpless about Lu Jinglin's luck. It was said that Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shakoing are the strongest in the Kanglin College. Although her sister is not weak, the last time they fought, Bailey Hongzhuang had already shown the difference between their strengths. This time, she was afraid that Lu Jinglin would lose. Sister, Lu Jingqi worried about her sister. She was clear about her sister's personality and was afraid that she was extremely depressed. Lu Jinglin waved her hand. I am afraid I will lose this game. As long as you do well, it will be enough. Hearing this, Lu Jingqi also nodded her head. Sister, don't worry. I will help you let go of your bad breath. Nangong Yuer was unhappy that her opponent was not Bailey Hongzhuang. If it was Bailey Hongzhuang, she would kill her directly. This way, Mo Yinjue would still be hers. I hope that you can survive this round. Nangong Yuer's eyes were filled with malice. There was a ray of poison deep within. Amongst all the practitioners, the fight between Xiao Lanmei and Nangong Yujin was the one that they were most unhappy about at the two colleges. The strengths of both Xiao Lanmei and Nangong Yujin were good. But now one of them had to be removed right away. This made the two colleges unhappy. It was a shame that only one of them would remain. When the result was over, Bailey Hongzhuang went to the arena, not hesitating at all. Right now there were 10 arenas set up on the tournament field. They had been prepared for the first 10 matches. If they had to wait for the people to fight one after another, they would waste too much time on the first round. Therefore Lingyin College had arranged 10 arenas to shorten the time. Also the first round was the last interesting. The further into the tournament they got, the more exciting the fights would become. Bailey Hongzhuang directly jumped onto the arena that was marked for her. Her dress was fluttering in the wind, her ink-black hair was also gently flying, and in her hand was a transparent glass sword that shone with a colorful light. It's just that although it was immensely beautiful, a cold chill made the crowd understand that they should not enjoy the scenery now. Lu Jinglin appeared on the other side of the arena. Her face was pale and obviously she was in a bad mood. We meet again, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She had never thought of this result in the lottery. Lu Jinglin was only at the mysterious heaven stage. She couldn't pose a threat to her. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't think that just because you are a little stronger. This time at the college tournament you are bound to lose. Lu Jinglin taunted Bailey Hongzhuang. She would not let her be proud. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up into a sneer as she answered, the results of the college tournament is still unknown. I only know for sure that you will be defeated by me. When the words came out, Lu Jingqi's face suddenly became gloomy. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were impossible to refute. The referee also felt the spark of dislike between the two of them, and immediately said, let the fight begin. She had been looking down on the Kanglin College, but now she was simply defeated like this, in one move. This was truly embarrassing. The audience was also stunned. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jinglin are both beautiful women. There were many people who paid attention to their fight. They thought that since the Beihai College had always pressured the Kanglin College, the winner of this battle should be Lu Jinglin. However, no one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would win the first match so overwhelmingly. Chapter 717. Slapping faces. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly and elegantly walked down the arena and back to the place allocated to the Kanglin College. Amongst all the ones battling, she was the one who finished the battle first. The other cultivators were still on the arenas and battling with all their might. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba saw that Bailey Hongzhuang solved the battle so fast. their eyes showing some strange gazes. Although they knew it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to lose, it was shocking that the battle ended in only one move. Isn't it said that the cultivators of Kanglin College are weak? That Bailey Hongzhuang used a single attack to defeat Lu Jinglin, is this considered weak? Some of the citizens could not help but gossip after seeing this scene. All along, under the illusion that the Lingyin College had painted of Kanglin College, then they all thought that they were weak and powerless. They even thought that the college should be closed directly, that it was a mistake to continue existing. One attack to defeat their enemy, this proved that her strength was not just a bit stronger than Lu Jinglin. That's not necessarily so. Maybe this Lu Jinglin is simply too weak. Look at the other arenas, who is losing that fast? You said it right, this Lu Jinglin is simply too weak. Lu Jinglin, who originally had a bad mood after losing, had an ugly face after hearing how people were talking about her. She had really become useless now. This was making her unable to accept. The proud her was filled with frustrations. At Beihai College she was a genius, pursued by all. Now she was said to be weak. This was a fatal blow. Mo Xinghai and Duan Yingwu apparently had not expected that Lu Jinglin would lose so fast in a face-to-face contest. This was truly losing face for the Beihai College. The two were too angry to even bother about Lu Jinglin and her injuries. Even if she was going to lose, she could lose in a much better way. The way Lu Jinglin lost was like a slap to their faces. They used to mock the Kanglin College for being the weakest amongst all the colleges. Now that they failed in this way, they were angry. Bailey Hongzhuang did not care about Lu Jinglin, her eyes were observing the other platforms. Gong Shaoqing's strength was good, at this moment he was pressuring his opponent. She was quite certain that he would win the battle after a short amount of time. The situation of Dong Fangyu was also quite optimistic. Although the opponent was quite strong, the two of them were equal, but there was a confident smile on Dong Fangyu's lips that made her understand that he was certain of his victory. The situation of Zhang Yunfeng and Bai Junyu was not too optimistic. Zhang Yunfeng's opponent was Nangong Yuer. Although Nangong Yuer was a spoiled princess, her strength was not exaggerated. The tournament clearly showed that the Lingyin College had some skills. Zhang Yunfeng's strength was not weak, but Nangong Yuer was obviously better, suppressing Zhang Yunfeng in everything she did. Master, Zhang Yunfeng is going to lose. Little Black slowly said, Nangong Yuer is not showing all her strength. From beginning to end, Nangong Yuer never regarded Zhang Yunfeng as a real opponent, she never did her best in attacking. Chapter 718, Nangong Yuer provokes Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The judgment of Little Black and Little White was not wrong. Nangong Yuer had broken through to the innate realm. Sure enough, the royal family's members were not simple. In fact, no matter what rich resources the royal family owned, it would be hard to not have a good cultivation. In comparison, it was obvious that Nangong Yujin was the worst from the royal family in the tournament. His sister had already broken through into the innate realm, but he had not. It was obvious that this young man only cared about women. Since that day she had gotten a better understanding of Nangong Yujin. The third prince of the Qing dynasty was famous for his lust. Not only was he often visiting the brothels, if he found a beautiful woman on the streets, he would take her home directly. For this reason, the reputation of Nangong Yujin was quite bad in the Qing dynasty. It was only because of his identity as the third prince that no one dared say anything. The second prince, Nangong Xiujie, was somewhat better, but not by much. On the other hand, the crown prince Nangong Aochen was very loved by the people. Not only was he immensely strong, he had never done anything wrong. Bang! With a heavy blow by Nangong Yuer, Zhang Yunfeng was hit and fell directly from the platform, causing the battle to end. After winning, Nangong Yuer looked directly at Bailey Hongzhuang, her chin held high and her pretty face filled with provocation. Master, this Nangong Yuer seems to really hate you. Little Black's eyes were doubtful. Nangong Yuer's attitude was obviously filled with provocation, but when did their owner offend her? Bailey Hongzhuang just shrugged, her expression innocent. She had no understanding as to why Nangong Yuer had this attitude towards her. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes landed on the arena where Xia Jiqing was fighting. Xia Jiqing and Lu Jingqi could be considered equal, everything seemed even so far. None of them were retreating and they kept attacking the other's vital points. The hatred between the two was deep and now they finally got a chance to let it out. Bang! Xia Jiqing's hands used the long red whip she could not afford in the Wubao Pavilion. After seeing that Xia Jiqing liked it, Bailey Hongzhuang bought the long whip and made Xia Jiqing use it in the tournament. Lu Jingqi was using a long sword and was also rushing to attack Xia Jiqing. It was just that whenever she attacked, Xia Jiqing could use the long whip to entangle her sword. Upon seeing this, Lu Jingqi did not panic. Yuanli continued to enter the longsword's range and slowly managed to unravel the long whip's entrapment. They were constantly fighting but no one knew who will win. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was focusing on the battle between Lu Jingqi and Xia Jiqing, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu walked up to her side, as they had finished, and won, their battles. Hongzhuang, you were so fast at finishing the battle. Dong Fangyu's face was filled with emotion, he had seen her finish the battle before his had even begun. Chapter 719, Time to end this battle. Bailey Hongzhuang just smiled lightly, but without waiting for her to say anything, Lu Huayan's voice that was filled with laughter already rang. Bailey Hongzhuang defeated Lu Jinglin with one stroke, it gave us a good head start. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba's mood was quite good. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang, Gong Shaoqing, and Dong Fangyu had won, this score was not considered bad at all. It was still uncertain who amongst Xia Jiqing and Lu Jingqi would win, but if Xia Jiqing won, then they had managed to advance 4 people. Compared to the last 2 times the tournament had been held, this was a much better result. Zhang Yunfeng, Bai Junyu, and Cui Haoyan were filled with a feeling of defeat, they had lost and could not pass the first round in the tournament. Mentors, I am sorry, the mood of these 3 were immensely bad, they knew they needed good results in the tournament, but they were unable to even get through the first round, they felt uncomfortable at heart. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba flashed a kindness in their eyes and patted the shoulders of the students. There will always be loss in a tournament, there is no need to think too much about it. The cultivators of Lingyin and Beihai College were strong. The reason Zhang Yunfeng and the others failed was not because of they not being strong enough, but because their opponents were simply just too powerful. Zhang Yunfeng was injured. After Fu Hongba took out the previously prepared healing medicine and gave it to Zhang Yunfeng, everyone turned their eyes to the battle between Xia Jiqing and Lu Jingqi. Not only the students of Kanglin College, also the students of Beihai College were worried about this battle. Both colleges had 3 people who advanced into the next round, the winner of this battle would determine who had the upper hand. The strength of this Lu Jingqi seems a bit stronger than it was at Longguang City. Gong Shaoqing judged this after seeing the current battle of Lu Jingqi and Xia Jiqing. Although Lu Jingqi and Xia Jiqing were at the same cultivation stage, Xia Jiqing should be slightly higher. But it was impossible to say who would win, it was impossible for Lu Jingqi to hide her strength. I hope that Jiqing can win. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes were filled with hope. She had lost in the first round of the tournament, but now she only hoped that Xia Jiqing could win. In this way, then even if she had lost in the first round, if they could have 4 places, they would hold the upper hand against the Beihai College. Xia Jiqing, you are so arrogant normally, now you aren't so strong. Lu Jingqi sneered, her eyes were filled with ridicule. Xia Jiqing sneered and looked coldly at Xia Jiqing. Lu Jingqi, this trash-talking is useless, I have not seen you having the strength to defeating me yet. Seeing that Xia Jiqing had directly guessed her thoughts, Lu Jingqi's face was ugly. She had thought of taking this opportunity to teach Xia Jiqing a lesson, but she never thought that her strength was comparable to her own. She had not succeeded so far. The power within their bodies had already been consumed by more than half, it would not work to continue this way. However, the next moment Xia Jiqing slowly said, now, it's time to end this battle. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.